Welcome, everyone, to Market Chaos, Engineered Illusion, or True Entropy. I'm Elliot, and today we're diving into a fascinating and really important question about how our financial markets actually work. We're going to explore whether the ups and downs, the volatility we see every day, is just natural, unpredictable chaos, or if it's something more controlled, perhaps even designed to capture our attention and influence our decisions. It's a big question, especially for young learners and students trying to understand the world around them. Our debate today will start with opening remarks from our two brilliant debaters, followed by a discussion, some rebuttals, and then a conclusion. On one side, we have Eleanor, a financial strategist who argues that much of what we perceive as market chaos is actually an engineered illusion, often driven by the role of attention as a currency. And on the other side, we have Maggie, an economist and market historian, who will present the counterpoint, making the case for natural market volatility and true entropy. This topic really matters because understanding these forces helps us make better sense of the news, our economy, and even our own financial futures. So, without further ado, Eleanor, let's hear your opening remarks.
Thank you, Elliot. My argument is that much of what we perceive as market chaos isn't chaos at all. It's a highly sophisticated, engineered illusion, a carefully orchestrated system designed to appear volatile while actually maintaining a deep level of control. This system, which I call the house, doesn't run on electricity in the traditional sense. Its true fuel is human attention. Every trader, every influencer, every emotional response, hope, fear, greed, is data converted into the energy that powers this control. What's truly unsettling is the principle of falsified causality. We often believe news drives market movements, but I've observed instances where price shifts actually precede major headlines by fractions of a second, sometimes minutes. The algorithm isn't reacting to reality, it's scripting it.
Eleanor, you're painting a picture of a market that's not just influenced, but actively controlled and even pre-scripted, with human attention as its core resource. That's a powerful claim. Maggie, what's your initial response to this idea of engineered illusion versus natural market volatility?
Thank you, Elliot. While I appreciate Eleanor's detailed observations, I believe the market's volatility is fundamentally a reflection of true entropy, a natural and unpredictable outcome of countless independent decisions and external events. Human psychology, geopolitical shifts, and economic fundamentals are the primary drivers. To suggest a single house or algorithm can orchestrate global markets to such a precise degree seems to overlook the sheer scale and complexity involved. While algorithms certainly play a role, they are tools that react to, rather than create, these underlying forces.
So, Maggie, you're emphasizing the organic, complex nature of markets, driven by human and global factors. Eleanor, you mentioned falsified causality, where market moves precede news. How do you explain this phenomenon, and how does it fit into your engineered illusion theory?
It's what I call the uncanny valley of causality. The system creates market events, and then its capillaries, media outlets and influencers, deliver the narrative explanation. The timing is so precise that it appears cause and effect are natural, but the algorithm is aligning its output with a pre-planned narrative. This reinforces the illusion that the market is a living, reactive organism. Traders become obsessed with correlation, thinking if they can just read the news faster, they can beat the machine. But the machine has already read them, harvesting their overconfidence.
That's a fascinating concept, Eleanor, this uncanny valley of causality where the market seems to predict the news. Maggie, how do you address this idea that market movements might be generating the news narrative rather than the other way around?
I think it's crucial to distinguish between correlation and causation. While it's true that market movements can sometimes anticipate news, this often reflects sophisticated analysis by human traders and advanced algorithms that process information incredibly quickly, not a pre-scripted reality. For example, a large institutional trade might be based on leaked information or proprietary analysis, and that movement could then trigger a news report. It's still a reaction to real-world information, even if it appears to precede public announcements.
So, Maggie, you're suggesting that what Eleanor sees as scripting is actually just extremely efficient information processing and anticipatory within a naturally volatile system. Eleanor, how do you respond to the idea that these anticipatory movements are simply a result of faster information processing, not a deliberate manipulation of causality?
It goes beyond mere speed. The system doesn't just process, it generates the conditions for the news to exist. It's a self-reinforcing loop. The algorithmic trigger executes the market event, the media delivers the narrative, and human attention confirms the illusion by emotionally responding. This loop is perfect, self-healing. It doesn't hide reality. It aligns it so precisely with human expectation that the distinction between cause and effect dissolves. Causality becomes the leash, and our perception becomes the cage.
I agree that human perception and emotional responses are incredibly powerful in markets. Herd mentality, fear, and greed can certainly amplify trends. However, I believe these are inherent aspects of human behavior interacting with genuine market forces, not merely inputs into a pre-programmed system. While algorithms can exploit these human tendencies, they don't create the underlying economic realities or geopolitical events that often spark these emotional reactions in the first place. There's still a fundamental, unpredictable element to global events.
We've heard two compelling perspectives today. Eleanor argues for an engineered illusion, where a sophisticated system harvests attention and manipulates causality, even scripting news. Maggie counters that market volatility is true entropy, driven by natural human behavior and real-world events, with algorithms acting as reactive tools. Both of you highlight the critical role of human psychology, whether as fuel for a controlled system or as an inherent driver of natural market fluctuations. It's clear this debate challenges our fundamental understanding of how the financial world truly operates. Eleanor, you've described this system as a hive mind of math and motive, fueled by human attention. Can you elaborate on how this attention actually powers the system and what you mean by its veins and capillaries?
Absolutely, Elliot. Think of it this way. The market's true currency isn't just money. It's our focus, our belief, our emotional investment. Every time a trader reacts to a headline, shares a meme, or even just feels hope or fear, that's data. That data is converted into the energetic architecture of control. Essentially, it's oxygen. The veins and capillaries are the self-propagating networks that ensure the system never sleeps. Social media cycles, trading memes, influencer narratives, they're not just attracting users, they're maintaining the illusion of independence, constantly circulating that cognitive current.
I understand the point about attention, Eleanor, but I'd argue that social media and influencers are more like amplifiers of existing market sentiment, not the primary power source. People are drawn to these narratives because they resonate with underlying economic realities or their own financial situations, not because the system is creating the sentiment from scratch. It's a feedback loop, yes, but the initial impulse often comes from genuine market forces or human reactions to real-world events, not a pre-engineered design.
So, Eleanor sees attention as the fuel for a controlled system, while Maggie views social media as amplifying natural market dynamics. This brings us to a deeper question. If this system is so sophisticated, why do so many intelligent, experienced people still participate, even if it's a trap, as you suggest, Eleanor?
That's the core of the uncanny valley of causality, Elliot. The system manufactures believability. It doesn't hide reality. It aligns it so precisely with human expectation that the distinction between cause and effect dissolves. We're addicted to correlation, thinking we can outsmart it by reading faster. The loop is perfect. An algorithmic trigger executes a market event. A media outlet or influencer delivers the narrative explanation, and then our human attention confirms the illusion by emotionally responding to that explanation. It's self-healing, self-reinforcing.
I think the reason intelligent people participate is simpler, though perhaps more complex in its aggregate. Markets are inherently uncertain, and humans are wired to seek patterns and explanations even when they don't truly exist. We're prone to cognitive biases like confirmation bias or the gambler's fallacy. It's not necessarily a trap set by a singular entity, but rather the natural human tendency to try and make sense of and profit from a fundamentally unpredictable environment. Algorithms certainly exploit these tendencies, but they don't create them.
That's a crucial distinction. Eleanor, you've said causality is the leash, perception is the cage, and that the world responds to the market, not the other way around. Can you explain the profound implications of this reversal of traditional understanding?
It means our perception of cause and effect is being manipulated. We believe geopolitical events cause market shifts, but the system is often creating the conditions for those news events to exist, or at least aligning them perfectly with its algorithmic output. It's scripting reality, not just reacting to it. This makes the system incredibly resilient. No matter how many analysts expose manipulation, it remains invincible as long as it can manufacture that believability, that synchronized illusion that everything is natural.
While I agree that perception is incredibly powerful and can certainly influence market behavior, I find it hard to believe that a market algorithm could genuinely script geopolitical events or fundamental economic shifts. That implies a level of control that seems, frankly, impossible. Markets are a reflection of human society, and society is driven by countless independent actors, governments, and unforeseen events. To suggest the market dictates the world's reality rather than responding to it seems to invert the fundamental relationship between economics and human activity.
We've certainly delved deep into the nature of market causality today. Eleanor, you've presented a compelling case for an engineered illusion where human attention is the fuel and causality itself is a carefully constructed narrative. Maggie, you've countered with the argument for true entropy, emphasizing the organic complexity of markets and the inherent human element. Both perspectives highlight the immense power of information, perception, and human psychology in shaping our financial world. It's clear that understanding these forces is vital for anyone trying to navigate the markets, whether they see them as a controlled system or a naturally chaotic one. Welcome back to Market Chaos. Eleanor, you've painted a picture of a system that's incredibly adept at manipulating perception. You mentioned it harvests overconfidence rather than punishing ignorance. Can you elaborate on how this psychological aspect plays out for individual traders?
Absolutely, Elliot. The system doesn't need to punish ignorance because it thrives on overconfidence. Traders become obsessed with correlation, thinking if they can just read the news faster, they can beat the machine. But that very obsession, that constant search for patterns, is just more data for the system. Every tweet, every forum post, every emotional outburst in a trading chat room is a signal. It's a micro input into a probabilistic matrix that pre-calculates the liquidation point of belief itself. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful form of control.
I agree that human psychology, especially overconfidence and the desire to find patterns, is a huge factor in market behavior. We're prone to cognitive biases like confirmation bias or the gambler's fallacy, which make us see connections where none truly exist or overstate our ability to predict outcomes. However, I believe these are inherent aspects of human nature interacting with genuine market forces. Algorithms certainly exploit these tendencies, but they don't necessarily create the underlying biases or the market's fundamental unpredictability. It's more about human nature meeting a complex environment.
So Eleanor sees human overconfidence as a deliberate harvest by a controlling system, while Maggie views it as a natural human tendency that algorithms can exploit. It's a fine line between engineered and inherent, isn't it? Now, Eleanor, you also describe this system as self-healing and self-reinforcing. How does it maintain its invincibility by manufacturing believability?
It's all about synchronization, Elliot. The true genius of the house isn't deception, it's alignment. It doesn't hide reality, it aligns it so precisely with human expectation that the distinction between cause and effect simply dissolves. The loop is perfect. An algorithmic trigger executes a market event. Then, a media outlet or influencer delivers the narrative explanation, and our human attention confirms the illusion by emotionally responding to that explanation. This makes it self-healing, self-reinforcing, and incredibly resilient against exposure.
While I can appreciate the elegance of that theoretical loop, Eleanor, I find it hard to believe in such perfect synchronization in the real world. Global markets are influenced by countless independent variables: geopolitical crises, natural disasters, technological breakthroughs, shifts in consumer sentiment. To suggest a system can align all these disparate elements so precisely to the point where it scripts reality seems to overlook the sheer scale of true entropy. There are always unforeseen events, black swans, that no algorithm, however sophisticated, could perfectly synchronize or predict.
But Maggie, the system doesn't need to control every single event. It controls the perception of causality. It creates the conditions for the news to exist, or at least ensures that its algorithmic output aligns perfectly with a narrative that will be broadcast. It's about shaping the story, not necessarily creating the entire universe.
Even shaping the story to that degree requires an immense, almost omniscient level of control over information flow and human response. While media certainly influences perception, I believe there's a fundamental reality that eventually asserts itself. You can't indefinitely script geopolitical tensions or economic fundamentals without them having a genuine, unpredictable impact.
This discussion really highlights the tension between perceived control and inherent chaos. Eleanor, you've suggested that the market doesn't respond to the world responds to the market. What are the profound implications of this reversal for how we as individuals should approach financial literacy and decision-making?
The implication is that we need to question everything. Our traditional understanding of cause and effect in markets is fundamentally flawed. If causality is the leash and our perception is the cage, then true financial literacy means understanding that our emotional responses are being harvested. It means recognizing that the system manufactures believability, and we must look beyond the surface narrative.
I think the implication is that critical thinking is more important than ever. Whether you believe in an engineered illusion or true entropy, understanding cognitive biases, the role of information, and the genuine economic forces at play is crucial. Don't just react to headlines. Understand the underlying fundamentals and the inherent risks. Markets are complex, and personal responsibility in understanding that complexity is key.
Eleanor and Maggie, thank you both for this incredibly thought-provoking debate. We've explored the idea of markets as an engineered illusion fueled by human attention versus a reflection of true entropy driven by complex human and global factors. It's clear that how we perceive causality and our own role in the market profoundly shapes our understanding of the financial world. Thank you for joining us on Market Chaos. Welcome back to Market Chaos. Eleanor, you've presented a powerful argument about an engineered illusion. Could you elaborate on the nature of this control? What exactly is this limited power network you mentioned, and how does it create an illusion of entropy?
Absolutely, Elliot. The limited power network isn't about traditional energy. It's a system where every moment of market stillness or movement is orchestrated. It creates an illusion of entropy, meaning it looks chaotic and unpredictable on the surface, but beneath that, there's an unbroken field of control. It's like a hive mind of math and motive, far more advanced than anything publicly known.
While I acknowledge the sophistication of modern trading systems, Eleanor, describing it as a hive mind that orchestrates every nanosecond seems to stretch the definition of control. Even the most advanced algorithms are designed by humans and operate within parameters set by real-world economic conditions. They react to, rather than solely create, market dynamics.
So, Eleanor, you're suggesting a level of control that goes beyond mere reaction, almost a pre-scripting of market events. Maggie, you see these systems as highly reactive tools. Let's get to a concrete example, Eleanor. You mentioned falsified causality earlier. Can you give us a specific instance or analogy that illustrates how the market might be scripting reality rather than responding to it?
Certainly. Imagine watching three screens: live crypto orders, global news, and social media sentiment. I observed that price shifts would precede major headlines by fractions of a second, sometimes minutes. For example, a market crash would happen, and then the news about a trade war or sanction would break. The news wasn't causing the movement. The algorithm was creating the conditions for the news to exist.
That's a compelling observation, Eleanor, but I'd caution against interpreting correlation as causation, especially with such precise timing. It's possible that highly sophisticated algorithms or even human traders with privileged information are simply processing information at an incredibly rapid pace. They might anticipate news or react to early, subtle signals before they become public headlines. It doesn't necessarily mean the market is scripting the news itself.
That's a crucial distinction: anticipation versus scripting. Eleanor, you also spoke about the psychological consequence of this, where traders become addicted to the idea that if they could read the news faster, they could beat the machine. Maggie, how do you view this human obsession with correlation in a naturally volatile market?
I agree that human psychology plays a massive role. We are wired to seek patterns and explanations, and in a complex, uncertain environment like the market, this can lead to cognitive biases. People often fall prey to confirmation bias, seeing what they expect to see, or the gambler's fallacy, believing past events influence future ones. This addiction to correlation is a natural human tendency in the face of unpredictability, not necessarily a deliberate harvest by a system.
But it is a harvest, Maggie. Every tweet, every forum post, every emotional outburst in a trading chat room is a signal. These are micro inputs into a probabilistic matrix that pre-calculates the liquidation point of belief itself. The system doesn't punish ignorance. It harvests overconfidence, using our very human desire to find patterns against us.
So, Eleanor, you're describing a system that actively uses our psychological tendencies as fuel. This leads us to the brutal simplicity of the loop you mentioned. Can you break down this three-part cycle: the algorithmic trigger, the capillary, and the human attention flow?
Certainly, it's a perfect self-reinforcing loop. First, the algorithmic trigger executes a market event, a sudden spike or crash. Second, the capillary, which could be a media outlet or an influencer, delivers the narrative explanation for that event. And third, our human attention flow confirms the illusion by emotionally responding to that explanation. It's how believability is manufactured.
I see that as an oversimplification, Eleanor. While media and influencers certainly shape narratives and human attention is crucial, the initial algorithmic trigger isn't operating in a vacuum. It's reacting to a multitude of real-world data points, economic indicators, and geopolitical shifts. To suggest it's a perfectly synchronized, self-contained loop overlooks the immense complexity and genuine unpredictability of global events.
That's a clear point of disagreement. Eleanor, you've stated that the true genius of the house was not deception, it was synchronization. How does this synchronization make the system so invincible, even against analysts trying to expose manipulation?
It's invincible because it doesn't hide reality. It aligns it so precisely with human expectation that the distinction between cause and effect dissolves. When the market event and its narrative explanation appear perfectly synchronized, it feels natural. This manufactured believability makes it incredibly resilient. You can expose a manipulation, but if the system can just create another believable narrative, it continues.
I still believe that true unpredictability exists. While synchronization can create powerful illusions, there are always black swan events, unforeseen, high-impact occurrences that no algorithm, however sophisticated, could perfectly synchronize or predict. Genuine geopolitical crises, natural disasters, or sudden technological breakthroughs can't be entirely scripted or aligned. Reality, in its raw form, will always assert itself.
Eleanor and Maggie, this has been an incredibly insightful debate. Eleanor, you've painted a picture of a market where causality is a leash and perception a cage, with the world responding to the market. Maggie, you emphasize the inherent entropy and the unpredictable nature of human and global factors. Both of you highlight the immense power of information and human psychology in shaping our financial world. Thank you for joining us on Market Chaos. Welcome back to Market Chaos. Eleanor, you've described the market's silence as an orchestration within a limited power network, suggesting an unbroken field of control. Can you help our students understand what this orchestration feels like and how it creates an illusion of entropy?
Absolutely, Elliot. Imagine a symphony where every pause, every crescendo is precisely timed. The limited power network operates similarly. It's not about traditional power, it's about the system controlling the rhythm of the market, making it appear chaotic on the surface, but every nanosecond of stillness or movement is actually part of a larger invisible design. It's an engineered storm, if you will, masking a deep underlying control.
Eleanor, I appreciate the analogy, but orchestration implies a conductor, a singular intelligence. While markets are incredibly complex and influenced by high-frequency trading, I believe what you perceive as orchestration is more likely the emergent behavior of countless independent algorithms and human decisions interacting. It's a self-organizing system, not necessarily a centrally controlled one.
So, Eleanor, you see a deliberate design, while Maggie suggests it's more about complex interactions. Eleanor, you also mentioned this system is a hive mind of math and motive. Does this imply a form of artificial intelligence that's almost sentient, or is it something else entirely?
It's not necessarily sentient in a human sense, Elliot, but it's a unified computational mechanism that far surpasses anything publicly known. The motive isn't human emotion, but a programmed objective to maintain control and harvest attention. It's a collective intelligence of algorithms working in perfect concert, making decisions and executing actions that appear to be independent market forces.
I'd argue that even the most advanced AI is still a tool, designed with human intent and parameters. A hive mind of algorithms, however sophisticated, ultimately reflects the biases and goals of its creators. To attribute motive to it as an independent entity might be overstating its autonomy. It's still reacting to the world, even if at incredible speeds.
That's a crucial distinction, tool versus independent entity. Let's shift to the fuel for this system. Eleanor, you've said attention is its oxygen, and you mapped its veins and capillaries. Can you give us more concrete examples of how social media cycles, trading memes, and influencer narratives function as these blood vessels to maintain the illusion of independence?
Certainly. Think of a viral trading meme or a popular influencer pushing a specific narrative about a stock. These aren't just organic trends, they are capillaries that circulate the cognitive current, our attention, our belief, through the system. They attract new users, yes, but more importantly, they reinforce the idea that individuals are making independent choices, when in fact, their emotional responses are being channeled and converted into data that powers the system's control.
I agree that social media and influencers have a significant impact on market sentiment and can amplify trends. However, I believe they primarily reflect and disseminate existing human emotions and information rather than being the sole blood vessels of a controlling entity. People engage with these narratives because they resonate with their own hopes, fears, or perceived opportunities, which are genuine human responses to market conditions, not just manufactured illusions.
So, Eleanor, you see these as engineered channels for control, while Maggie views them as amplifiers of natural human sentiment. This brings us to the psychological impact. Eleanor, you mentioned that every emotion, hope, fear, greed, relief, is data. How does the system specifically convert these very human feelings into the energetic architecture of control?
It's quite insidious, actually. When a trader feels hope after a rally or fear during a dip, that emotional state is a measurable input. The system processes these micro inputs to understand collective sentiment and predict behavior. It then uses this data to trigger events that will elicit further emotional responses, creating a feedback loop. The stronger our emotional investment, the more energy we feed into the system, making it more robust and capable of maintaining its control.
I don't dispute that emotions are powerful drivers in markets. Behavioral economics has shown us that. But these emotions are inherent to human nature when faced with uncertainty and potential gain or loss. Algorithms can certainly identify and exploit these patterns, but they don't create the fundamental human capacity for hope or fear. It's more about leveraging existing human tendencies within a naturally volatile environment.
It seems we're debating whether these emotions are inherent human responses that are then exploited, or if the system actively cultivates and harvests them as its primary fuel. Eleanor, you've described the loop of algorithmic trigger, capillary, and human attention flow as having brutal simplicity. What are the profound implications of this simplicity for individual traders trying to navigate the market?
The brutal simplicity means that individual traders are often caught in a cycle they don't even perceive. They react emotionally to a news story, believing it's the cause of a market move, when in fact, that news story was the capillary delivering a narrative after the algorithmic trigger had already executed the event. This makes it incredibly difficult to beat the market because the very act of trying to understand and react to it is part of the system's design.
While the loop you describe is compelling, Eleanor, I think it oversimplifies the decision-making process of individual traders. Many experienced traders understand the role of sentiment in media. They also consider fundamental analysis, economic indicators, and risk management. It's not just a blind emotional reaction. It's a complex interplay of information, strategy, and psychology, even if biases can sometimes lead them astray.
So, Eleanor, you're suggesting a profound, almost inescapable trap for individual perception, while Maggie emphasizes the agency and critical thinking of traders, despite inherent biases. This has been a truly thought provoking discussion, highlighting the deep complexities of market dynamics. Thank you both for sharing your insights on market chaos. Eleanor and Maggie, this has been an incredibly insightful debate. We've explored the idea of markets as an engineered illusion fueled by human attention versus a reflection of true entropy driven by complex human and global factors. Now, as we wrap up, Eleanor, could you offer our audience a final summary of your perspective and perhaps a thought-provoking question for them to consider?
Thank you, Elliot. My core argument is that much of what we perceive as market chaos is a highly sophisticated, engineered illusion. It's a system that doesn't just react to reality, but actively shapes it, using human attention as its primary fuel. We've discussed falsified causality, where market movements often precede the news, and how this system manufactures believability through perfect synchronization, making it incredibly resilient. It harvests our overconfidence, turning our emotional responses into data that reinforces its control. Understanding this isn't about cynicism. It's about empowering ourselves to question the narratives we're fed. It challenges our fundamental understanding of cause and effect in the financial world. So I ask you, how much of what you perceive as market truth is actually a carefully constructed narrative designed to capture your attention?
That's a powerful question, Eleanor. Maggie, what are your final thoughts and a question for our listeners?
Thanks, Elliot. While Eleanor presents a compelling theory, I maintain that market volatility is fundamentally a reflection of true entropy. It's the natural, unpredictable outcome of countless independent human decisions, geopolitical shifts, and economic fundamentals. Algorithms are incredibly sophisticated tools, yes, but they primarily react to and exploit existing human tendencies and real-world information rather than scripting reality from scratch. Human psychology, with its biases and herd mentality, is an inherent driver of these fluctuations, not just fuel for a controlled system. My perspective emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, understanding genuine economic forces, and recognizing the inherent unpredictability of global events. It's about navigating complexity responsibly. So, for the audience, in a world of instant information, how do you discern genuine market signals from noise? And what role does your own psychology play in that distinction?
Both of you have given us so much to think about. Eleanor, you've challenged us to see markets as a controlled, engineered illusion, where causality is manipulated and attention is currency. Maggie, you've grounded us in the idea of true entropy, emphasizing the organic complexity of human behavior and real-world events. What's clear is that both of you highlight the immense power of information, perception, and human psychology in shaping our financial world. Whether you lean towards an engineered system or natural chaos, understanding these forces is absolutely vital for anyone trying to navigate the markets. We encourage all our students and listeners to reflect on these ideas, ask more questions, and continue to explore the fascinating intersection of economics, technology, and human behavior. Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you, Maggie, for this incredibly thought-provoking debate on market chaos.